and public health and mental health. It's just, and the it's
Health.
just getting these four brains together. I really don't care if we talk about Maseratis versus Toyota. You know what I mean? It's always
Yeah.
going to be interesting. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Public Access America. My name is Jason. His name is still Jeffrey. We get together once a week to talk about the week. And this week, we have our favorite friend, Karen, from the Earkick app. And we're just going to have an open conversation about stuff. We have some loose topics in our note as usual, but we're just going to have fun with it. When we get brains like this together, I really don't care what it is we talk about. I just don't want to steer it into any one lane or another. And all week long, I had imagined coming here, logging on, and putting my head in my hand because the way the world was politically was so messed up. And I was like, I don't know. This isn't the group to talk politics with. How do I show people the human cost of this stuff without talking about it? You know what I mean? And that's how I came up with the lying liars are liars.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't specifically talk about anybody. But Karen, hi, welcome. We had you on last month and we wanted to have you on. We want to have you on every month to get an update on Earkick. And then I'm kind of curious from your perspective, what's been top of mind for you this last month?
Okay. Oh, a lot. So I'm going to just start with what has been very, very recent, which is we have a Ukrainian colleague, actually two, a female and a male, and he came up with a new feature, a tool to fall asleep easier, and it's called Ambience Mixer, and it looks like a mixer for music. It's on the app, on the free app, and you can put a timer to as long as you want, and then you can kind of mix your favorite music with your favorite sound. Let's say you want some meditation sounds and you want to add some thunder, some rain, some ocean waves. You can all do it the way you like most, but you can also use presets. And the idea is to either make you calm down in the middle of the day if you need, because nobody's going to see it. You have your headphones or earbuds in.
Right.
Or in his case, as you know, there's a war raging over in Ukraine, and he couldn't sleep. He had huge trouble with falling asleep due to the constant, air raids and shelling and whatnot. So he developed it for himself, and now he can sleep much better. He's doing a lot of this, and I have been using it too. And that brings me to what was going on the last 2 days, because I thought, okay, this works so well. Now I want to go out in nature and try it out in nature. So we went outside to the woods, and with like almost nothing to ourselves, with two teenage boys, and we made like a makeshift kind of cabin. No, not even. It was not even a tent. We
Like a
just made
campsite?
something. Yeah, and then we slept there. We slept the night there, and it's
Wow.
amazing what it does to you. So first of all, it's incredible, the orchestra of sounds. Like you have birds, and you have all kinds of trees making weird noises, and it smells wonderful. And then you have
Yeah.
this the light air, sometimes a bit of rain. So it was not the easiest night because there's so much going on, but your heart rate drops to a minimum, like almost dead, and you wake up completely different, maybe a bit stiff and cold, but definitely
Mhm.
something happened right with your body, and it gave me so much energy. So I'm going to write a blog about this, about how nature and just even spending 10 minutes can be a real game changer on your entire health.
I would say
And so
it's a necessity to download like that.
yeah, definitely. So you have both. You have, like, you can go into nature if you have the opportunity, or you can use the ambience mixer by my wonderful colleague Igor, and just make sure that you get enough sleep. or that you can calm down if somebody got on your nerves, or if something really bad happened that day. It doesn't have to be war. It can just be a colleague or someone that is really mean to you. And I just switch it on, that little ambience mixer. You mix your own sounds, and off you go, calming down.
I really like that idea.
That's fantastic.
I think we talked about that last week. I asked Jeffrey, what kind of music pulls you out of a trigger? And he's like, there is none.
It's true.
But I did think what calming is for is when you're ready to calm. You know what I mean? And sometimes that's not at the peak of your frustration level, but at some point your endorphins and your adrenaline they're gonna bottom out, and you're gonna want to be calm, and so there's a great space for that, as well as you can go in the EarKick app and just type in, like we were talking about, just type in a trigger or an issue, and then go back and flesh it out later. And you can, so you have when you're in the peak of anxiety, you can go in there and just leave a note saying F this world. And then you can listen to music when you're ready to calm down. And once you're calmed down, you can go back to F this world and say, I had a bad day. I like that.
There's something really interesting about habituation. And that is that even I so much agree with you that it's difficult to find the music or that sound that suits every moment, right, of your emotional world. But the good thing is, if you have a sound that works well a few times, and you train your mind and body to get into a certain state when you hear that sound, then you can use it. You can try to use it even at the peak of your anger or your bad mood, and see if it works. Because we get used to things. Like for me, if you darken the room anytime during the day, I fall asleep, because I conditioned myself like a bird. You just darken the room and I fall asleep.
I love
so it can be the same thing with your mood or anger. You feel it coming up, you tune that in and calm down.
every day you're creating habits, either they're good or they're bad or they're neutral, but you're doing it just by the repetition of your schedule. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Jeffrey, I missed you all week. How are you doing?
I've had yet another absolutely slammed week, and I'm probably with 2 more to go.
Wow.
One of the things, this is, I think, top of my mind is at least here in the US, I don't know what it's been like over in Europe or anywhere else for that matter, but we've had what's called the Great Resignation. And so people have figured out that, if those who wanted to work from home or continue to work from home, a lot of companies have figured out, we can save a ton of money and not have so much overhead. And so there's been a great shift to work from home, and that has left a lot of us that work in offices severely understaffed in some cases.
Yeah.
And so
Public Access America was on the leading edge of this work from home movement too, by the way.
Wow.
Work from home before work from home was cool.
if this is work, we generate a couple dollars a month. So hey.
And the thing is like, especially for people who, have to be, in the office or have to be, I think especially for those of us who are dealing with issues that are, involving short staffing, it's been really something else. And it's just been, for the employees having to cover, it's exhausting, number one. Plus, and a lot of times on top of that, you're covering multiple positions instead of just like the one that you got hired for.
Right.
And so it becomes really stressful, and you don't get your stuff done, and it takes a while after you get home to finally wind down. But some of us, it's like you don't get that chance to wind down because you got to get food on the table, you got to make sure the kids get their homework done, you got to make sure that the dog's not being a total asshole. And it's just one of those things where it's like, by the time you finally get to the point where it's like, okay, I can sit down and take a couple of minutes, you're just energy wise, you're just completely strung out.
Right.
Yeah.
I always wonder how you all, I'm disabled. I work from home. I can walk away from anything I want to, whatever's in my life I chose. How do people with like an actual life handle a whole life, you know.
Sometimes
Yeah.
better than others. That's really about the answer that I got. And I think it really just, everybody's mental health is different. And, I think it just kind of depends on, number one, how you grew up, number two, how you've learned how to cope with your things. And number three, leaning on whatever healthy habits you have and trying to root out the bad ones. And unfortunately, like that's one of those things where like I know I'm a stress eater. So,
Mm,
not my that's my strong suit is finding great food and eating it when I'm stressed out. Problem is that when you lead a mostly sedentary lifestyle, that's
mm,
not a great habit to have. So you have to try and figure out how to balance that out. I mean, I pretty much look like I should be in, the world's strongest man competitions because I can eat like that and I can lift a
right.
lot. I just don't have the time to do it and the consistency to do it, but I certainly can eat like I'm still training. And
You know
it's
what
just
I'm
like
what I'm
not a
so
great thing.
you know what I'm so proud of? My roommate came home and he had a horrible day and he was stress eating and he was like, "Hey, thank you for this homemade hummus, by the way." And he polished off the whole container and I was like, that's awesome. He didn't stress eat like a bag of Oreos, right? Or
Mhm.
Cheetos or whatever. I don't know what people eat. But he ate like homemade hummus. And I told him, now drink a lot of water because it's a scrub brush for your insides. So
Right.
It is.
what I say is if you're gonna stress eat vegetable fruit like grapes. Grapes are a great thing to stress eat, you know what I mean? Or
Mhm.
raisins, like hummus. Like I am all on board of the hummus train. Yeah.
For me, for me, what I've actually kind of experimented with is mentally where I'm at based on what I eat. So like I found that like especially when I'm stressed out and I go for convenience and I eat just like fast food or garbage food, I
Mhm.
feel genuinely worse, like mental wise,
Yeah.
not even just physically, just mentally. Like I just like it just feels like I can't quite get my shit together.
Yeah.
But when I go back to eating, things that are, better for me, things that are home cooked or things that are minimally processed, I feel mentally a lot better. And so it's just a matter of it's like, okay, so how do I figure out how to take that, that knowledge that, eating minimally processed stuff, eating things that are better for you, and condense that down into uh, things that I can easily prepare, take with me when I have limited time.
Yeah.
Right.
Because convenience is great, but at the same time, I can't eat a cheeseburger from McDonald's the way that I could when I was 16, 17 years old, and it didn't affect me. It doesn't
Right.
work like that anymore.
Yeah, the bill comes very late, and it boils down to, for me at least, two things. One is knowing yourself and your basically your triggers and your phases,
Mm.
and I think you guys do a good job in that. But if you don't, then it's very important to kind of reverse the movie and go like, oh, how did I get into this situation? And then and try to like get yourself into favorable circumstances, or as you said, prepare something, a healthy choice.
Mhm.
And the other thing is to really to ask for help. So I do that when I'm kind of like really in the flow or in the tunnel, and I don't care about eating, I don't care about all that. Then
Right.
I tell my co-founder and partner, and he has an eye on it, so he kind of forces me to the kitchen to chop some salad, or to make some, get my hands dirty with
Right.
cooking
Mhm.
something. And the very process of chopping something or preparing something takes the edge out of the I gotta have something now,
For
Mhm.
and
sure.
then you have a different way of enjoying, the healthy food, and the not so healthy convenient options are forgotten, right?
Yeah.
But it without help, I think in our difficult times or stress times, or when we have good reasons to stress eat, it's not a shame to ask people for help and
That's
tell them,
right.
hey, when you see me doing this, then you do that.
I just learned to fill my fridge with food like good food, right? And
Yeah.
so when I want to binge on a bag of M&Ms, I go, oh, I didn't buy them. Like,
Oh, I'm so
what
sorry.
do I
Yeah.
have to eat? And then all I have left to eat is I don't like kefir. I keep that in my fridge, and when my stomach's upset, I just drink kefir. I don't know what it does for me, but man, it's like liquid yogurt, and I love it. Sorry,
Yeah.
Jeff. But
Kefir.
there's those things, and and then so I start thinking to myself, I'm gonna be hungry, and I don't have anything I can just grab and eat. Now I have to think about what I'm gonna make, and a lot of that is a process that takes me out of my frustrated brain. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
Yeah. Yeah.
if
It's a
I'm
basic
working
needs.
if I'm working on something, I think to myself, I'm getting frustrated. I'm getting hungry. Oh, I got to
Yeah.
think about what to make. Oh, and then so it's just because I like being in the kitchen. I like making things. That's fun for me, you know.
It is. I learned a very cool acronym once from, I don't even remember, it was a lady, a writer. And she said, whenever you have this kind of urge to get something to eat or do something, then remember HALT. It's HALT. Ask yourself, are you hungry? Are you, A is for
Anxious, aggravated.
anxious? Yes, aggravated. Are you lonely or are you
Mm,
tired? And it's not always hungry. Sometimes
right.
it's
No,
even too thirsty, right? But are you, maybe you are anxious or you're aggravated, as you said, or apprehensive. Maybe you're just tired. Try
yeah.
a nap. Maybe it's that.
We
We're
should
not
put
very
an
good
S
at
on. We should put an S on the end of that for stone.
whatever you put at the end. But the thing is to
Hmm.
kind of go through these stages and not, we settle very fast on hungry. I must be hungry, right? We're kind of,
Right.
we need something. And then M&M's is around the corner or whatever else is conveniently close.
Hmm.
And there we go, and it's not what we should do. It's not what we need. Maybe very often I'm tired, but
Right.
it's only when I lay down that I realize I wasn't hungry or thirsty. I was tired.
Mm.
Or I'm maybe lonely. Then, pick up the phone and talk to someone or take the app and, shout at
Right.
it. Do something like that.
Or call Arby's and talk to them about food.
Arby's? Oh God, that's painful.
Yeah, it
Oh,
is.
I mean, for me, the biggest one has always been, water. It's like you're not hungry, you're thirsty,
Yeah.
and you need to actually drink some water. So go
Yeah.
pound a glass of water.
Hmm. That's a
And
joke in this house, by the way. When I see my roommate, I'm like, hey, go drink some water. Because I set an alarm on the Google app. And then when he plugged the system together, now he gets my reminder at 4 o'clock every day. Hey, go drink more water.
you
you
know,
know, the funny thing is that we have like this goal section in our app, and we analyzed what people chose as what was the most frequently chosen goal. And by goal, I mean something small that you can achieve on a daily basis. You can set reminders and things like that. What do you think it was?
drink more water.
Yes.
Smoke less.
Drink a glass of water or drink more water.
Yeah.
And
It
then
changes
it
your
was,
life.
yeah, but it's incredible, isn't it, that you wouldn't think of it by yourself. It's
Right.
incredible that you have to have a notification and kind of a plan to tell you, I don't know, once or twice a day, drink
Yeah.
some more water. And think, it's the simple things that we can change and that have a huge effect on our mental and physical health. And all we need is to be reminded, and all we need is to kind of go like, yeah, oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm going to get some water. Right.
And I think making a plan to accomplish that in months or years time as opposed to like hours is
Yeah.
important to realize. Like we talk about this all the time, the tiny steps it takes in creating the base for a habit that you can continue doing instead of cold turkeying it for like 48 hours and then going back to what you did, like I always say, if I want cheesecake, I'm going to go get cheesecake. I'm diabetic, I might have to take a couple pills for that, but if I want it, I'm going to get it. But if I don't have it, I won't get it because I don't drive,
Yeah.
So it's about what I put in my freezer. And I got some of this Rebel ice cream, which is like super like real low sugar, but it's solid as a rock. So I hated it. So that's what was in my freezer. And I was like, do you really want something sweet that bad?
Yeah, make it hard for you to get it. And
That's right.
on the way to that, I heard a story about someone who would like hide his sweets somewhere in the garage and under a pile of, I don't know, wood, and then in a little box, and that box you had to think of a code to open it. And by the way, like it took him at least 5 to 10 minutes to get there. And that those 5 to 10 minutes made him think again.
Yeah.
And I think that's a wonderful trick. We sometimes have to trick ourselves, outsmart our basic instincts if we want to achieve a behavior change. And that goes for everything, right?
Right. But you have to raise your threshold for the tolerance and then slowly lower it. So like, don't throw your cigarettes away, but like throw 10 of them away, right? Or separate them and then put them somewhere else. You might not, and then you'll be like, every time you look at them, you'll be like, oh, I don't have enough. I need to slow down. Like, don't put everything you have in front of you. Put a little bit.
Make it a very difficult Easter egg hunt. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
I love that.
That's fantastic.
So what did you stress eat this week?
Oh, well, so this week I've actually been trying to change that habit, simply because it's like, it's one of the things about where I work. It's, we have like a little convenience shop where you can go, there's some healthy options, but they're kind of like down at the bottom, and you have to look, all of the like the candies and the chips and stuff is like right at eye level. And so it's, it's one of those things, like having studied business and having studied marketing. I mean, one of the things that most people don't realize is that a lot of these companies, like they have contractual requirements on where they place their stuff. So like they pay a premium for having something at eye level, right in that range of, you walk by it, you see it, you're like, yep, that's what I want. You grab that. And that's why typically, like, either your cheaper foods are going to be on the bottom or your healthier foods are going to be up high. They're not going to be at eye level. And so even just within my little workplace, I've looked at that and I'm just like, do I want to get, that candy bar that's right there? It's my favorite one that I've always liked. Yeah, but I can't be doing this anymore. Like if I, I'm working on my own health, and if I keep going to the candy bar, I'm not going to get anywhere. And so for me, trying to figure out, it's like, okay, when am I, like, why am I feeling hungry? Like, why, like, at what point in the day am I feeling hungry? So with my breakfast routine change, I noticed that I can easily go until my lunchtime, just between having breakfast and drinking black coffee. There's not really any calories in black coffee. So, hey, great, fantastic. I don't need it because I just sit there. It'd be different if I had like a physical job where I'm constantly moving, lifting stuff, twisting around, exerting some force. But what I do is I sit and I read a bunch of different documents. That's not exactly the same. You're burning calories, yes, but you're not burning the same as if you're out there doing physical motion. Wow. So now I've started, trying to do like shakes and stuff at lunch, and then like a light snack about halfway between there to get me to dinner. So that way it's like I'm still getting, what I need, but I'm not snacking, not having this full meal that I always feel tired afterwards, and then needing some type of sweet to give me an energy boost to get me through the rest of the day.
Right.
So that's been the start of the journey this week. It's once again trying to develop that habit.
I had that argument with my mom about mental jobs versus physical jobs, because I worked in a factory, and she would say, I'm so stressed and I'm just so out of it. And I would say, I just worked for like 9 hours lifting boxes. How could you do it? Like, you sat here all day. And she'd be like, no, you've been moving all day. And we'd have that argument. So I think that's kind of funny. I think they're both equally taxing in a way that I don't think the other could imagine.
Yeah. I mean, brain work is very it's heavy lifting if you're focused, not if you're zapping from one thing to the other. But if you're really creating, or you're really learning something, or you're really thinking about the future of whatnot, that costs you, I think, in terms of calories, the same thing as lifting boxes. It just feels different. I have a trick for myself when I want to test whether I'm really hungry or just kind of like, and I in the morning, I would prepare carrots and a box of them. Because the thing with carrots, you have to chew them, and you can't do that fast. So when you feel like this kind of little hunger or kind, I just want distraction from the heavy work that I'm doing. And then you start munching on a carrot and it goes away. Then you know it wasn't hunger, right? It was just so something else.
I've done that where I've tried to eat the entire carrot because I didn't want it in my hand so I could go back to working, and then I had a mouthful of carrot.
You have to chew it because you can't just swallow it. And the other thing that actually works too is to have, at least in my case, I have very, very fixed dates at times in the day where I have lunch. And before that, I go run with my co-founder every day, almost every day. And it's always the same. I get hungry like half an hour before we are supposed to eat. And I would love to just sit down and eat something right away. But then I have to go run, and I go, grumble, and I go run, and it's just half an hour. And oh man, it changes everything. First of all, your thoughts are directed back to just what you're doing, breathing, running, enjoying nature. And then you come back and you feel like, oh my gosh, I've done something so good for myself. Now I'm going to eat healthy. Right. And it just works. I'm not saying it would work in any situation, but for most of the times it does work. And not eating before sleep.
And you're planning for the exercise and not the food. I find a lot of people wake up and say, "What are we having for dinner?" And it's like, "What?"
I think
the mindset is food, because that's what the mindset is,
Yeah.
And Karen, you bring up an interesting point about and not eating right before bed. And this, I think at least in our house, that's one of the worst things that we do, simply because like a lot of the stuff that we make takes a couple hours to prepare and have ready. So by the time I get home at 6 o'clock and get things prepared and dinner on the table, it's 8 o'clock. And it's only like an hour and a half, 2 hours before people start heading off to bed. And so some of the things that I've done is like I've adjusted to stay up a little bit later before I go to bed, but that's not really still the best idea, because now you're sacrificing sleep. And it's like, that's another it's one of those things where like it's a very difficult balance, especially like when you don't have as much time as you would like, and that's how you just end up falling into the convenience trap. And so it's
kids are a big pressure that way, because I could eat chili 5 days in a row. I could just make a giant pot and be good with meals, but kids, you can't do that with kids.
You can't do that. No,
but you really shouldn't do that with yourself either.
Well, I have it in different ways. It's not always just a bowl of chili, but it'll be chili mac or chili on hot dogs or chili. I don't know. I do it in different ways.
It's really difficult to make it work if you live with several people with different schedules and everything. Yes, I don't have the perfect answer here, but what I'll do, I'll just skip dinner if it gets too late, and I make sure I have something before 6 p.m. I think when I started this, I started it to increase my sleep, or to increase the quality of my sleep, because sleep is so related to mental health. It's incredible. So many things that you can improve in your life if your sleep is good. And I was going to test it also with the app and with my watch. And it was difficult the first few days because I was used to having dinner later. And then I got used to it, and now I don't even feel it anymore. It's only when you have social pressure, like you're invited to dinner, then that's more important. The social aspect of friendships and family is much more important than what you're trying to achieve. And
Right.
yes, and then you can choose between going to bed later and sacrificing sleep, which I wouldn't do, or just making an exception for a day or two a month, and that's fine too. But data shows that my sleep was considerably better when I wind it down. Not only kind of the being online screen time, but also food and drinks. And
Wow.
you find other things to do. Again, doing it by yourself is hard. But if you have a team of people that I proclaim, okay, guys, like, this is my plan, please, everyone help me. And they all chipped in. It's so good, because you don't have to fight against yourself and you're weak. You're weak.
That's
body,
the whole
whatever.
That's the whole basis of this podcast is crowdsourcing solutions to problems that other people have. Like, my mom grew up and she went through so many accidents. I wish she was here so I could say, warn me about this, because she knew, she put her arm through windows. She lit a lawnmower on fire. She shocked herself with an electric chainsaw. So there's so much knowledge that we lost when and I lost my train of thought, but what you said was just so interesting. So the idea isn't to go, I want less screen time, so I'm going to put my phone down and twiddle my thumbs. For me, the idea was I want less screen time. I'm going to do more in the kitchen because it's hard to use your screen when you have wet hands, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, it was finding other things. And the other thing is attach a good habit like you did with the running with a bad habit of eating bad, right? So it's like, I'm going to have those M&Ms, but I'm going to go do something proactive first to earn them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then oftentimes I say, ooh, I'm feeling so good. I don't know if I want M&Ms because I like where I am right now.
Yeah. And there is good alternatives to screen time. Like in my case, when I don't feel like I usually go for a walk with my partner. And if I don't have someone to go with me for a walk, then I'll just pick one of my favorite podcasts episodes and I listen to it. So I relax my eyes, but I still have a feeling like, okay, I can wind down with consuming something rather than watching something. Not all the time, but it eases it. Let's put it this way. And I never, I made it a habit to never take my phone into the bedroom.
Right.
So it's
I don't
just
do that either.
Not going to be in my bedroom. And then, it's difficult because I have very good books on it. So how am I going to read it? And when am I going to read it and stuff? But, you find ways to work around these things. And I'm not saying that it should be forever, but chunks of time trying things out that have worked for other people is so cool. I'm so massively curious in everything. So when I hear from you guys, I'm going to try out a few things, and then you stick for it for a while to see if it has the benefit that you expect from it.
Right.
And if it doesn't have the benefit, you just go for the next one.
Yeah. Our friend Adam just got his pilot license, and he told me that, and I was like, you are always finding a new and fantastic way to isolate yourself from the world around you, because he does that too. He'll go wander into the woods. He says he does it all the time for the peace, and he does the tanks, the isolation tank, the float tanks, and he finds such benefit from removing himself from everything out here. And that helped me to remove all the electronics from my bedroom and kind of make that a cave,
Yeah. The cave and the darkness where you fall asleep immediately because it's all you do.
And then demanding or just assuming it's natural. So when, the next day when somebody's like, hey, I texted you, and I'm like, what? Yeah, I don't put my electronics in my bedroom. And they're like, what? That doesn't. Nope, that's natural. That's what I do. That's who I am now. That's just what it is.
Yeah.
And getting the world to form, because our past is like this wake behind our boat. And once we stop doing what we're doing, that wake has to overtake us and then bypass us and settle down. So when we make a change, our whole past comes comes back going, no, we're doing it this way. And you have to like handle that. But if you can get through like that month or two, suddenly you realize the habit, you're more important to yourself, and the habit you just made to better yourself is better than that past that you left behind, you know?
Yeah, you can always tell yourself, hey, look, if it's convincing enough, I'll go back to it.
Right. And you always can, right?
Yeah, you always can. So
you're
you
human.
keep putting it off. Keep putting it off.
I always said I didn't want to quit smoking because I knew I would quit quitting, and I don't want to be that big of a quitter.
Oh my gosh.
But what I did tell myself is if I wanted one, I would have one. But if I thought I needed one, I would step away. You know what I mean? And eventually I got to a point where maybe one, maybe two, like in the morning or at night, with a friend that smoked, and I got it down to a moderate level, I think, for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's what it's about. We demonize these things so that we can cold turkey it. We should just realize it's part of us, and then just do it less. Like acknowledge it. Just acknowledge it for a week. Just go, oh yeah, there's my bad habit right there, and just keep doing it.
I mean, you have to, whatever compromise you settle in with, you have to be okay with it. And you're the only one who can judge whether that's a good idea or not.
Yeah.
And
we always test ourselves and then rationalize the conclusion. So that's what we're always going to be like, I want to do this, but do I really want to? I was surviving not doing that. So it's this rationalization of going 2 steps forward, 1 step back, I hope.
Yeah, just, we all have to be aware of the bills that come in later. And I'm 51 now.
Me too.
Bills do come.
Yes. And when I hit 40, I realized everything that hurt was about to kill me. And then when I hit 50, I was like, all that stuff that was going to kill me didn't, and I'm still here. Is
this a threat or a promise?
But it all hurts. It all hurts so bad. Like somebody was like, I'll eat as much sugar as I want. And I was like, and I think about the swollen intestines and, numb feet and high prices of medications before I think about sugar now,
Well, and for myself, when I was in high school and I was, especially when I was playing basketball, I would, play basketball 3 hours a night. And then on the weekends, I would play, every night I would play 1.5 games because, small town, I'd play a full game. Then I'd end up playing on the upper team as well. And so as a kid, I could go to pizza and I could eat a large pizza and a family order of breadsticks and a pitcher of soda all on my own. And now it's like 2 slices and I'm over here going, oh God, that was a terrible decision. Why did I do that? Like, how the hell did I do this when I was a kid?
My roommate eats a frozen pizza and he's like, and that's garbage. And I was like, no, you work at Lowe's. You're 330 pounds. He used to be 400, but he started walking more. And now I'm like, and it has fruit, it has vegetables, it has dairy, and it has grain. Like it is your balanced meal if you use it. I can't put that many carbs in my body because I don't move that much.
That was one of those for a while I was trying different convenience hacks when I was living by myself. And so what I'd do is I'd just buy whatever cheese pizza there was, but then I would chop up all the vegetables that I was going to put on it. And then I would put that on top of this pizza, bake it, and I go from having this garbage cheese pizza to having a garbage cheese pizza, but there's a ton of veggies on top of it at least. So, it's like, okay, I can deal with, or, especially if you've got grocery stores that have stuff pre-sliced already. And great, you can throw on a bunch of mushrooms and bell peppers and whatever else you want to throw on there. And you can at least make it a little bit better than what it was and not have the massive time commitment of, I like to make my own pizza, don't get me wrong, but it takes a while to make your own pizza.
It does. Sure. It does.
But if you think about what that food is doing for you instead of how it tastes, you might pick something different. Like broccoli in my pasta works way better in my body than a bunch more cheese, Yeah. And so, But the cheese tastes better. But if you start thinking about what the ingredients you're putting in are doing for your body, that's when I realized that, I could just eat raisins and not like bread, or rice. I just started eating rice again.
Oh yeah,
I miss
there's
rice so
black
much.
rice, brown rice. You know the thing about broccoli and all these vegetables that are maybe not so attractive sometimes, especially when you're trying to make your kids eat it.
Mm.
Um, I found that if you can marry it with a very nice memory or an experience that is very
Yes.
positive, right? Then you can kind of make it something special. It's not right away, but if broccoli is always eaten at a certain day in a certain circumstance, let's say on a pizza, for example, you
Right.
can slowly increase the attractiveness. And at some point, maybe it overtakes the cheese and overtakes all the other stuff, but it takes
Right.
time. All these things, I think we would all be better off if we accepted that change takes time, and
Mm-hmm.
that if we can do these changes in very small steps and just stick with it and get our help from outside, to
Yes.
adhere, we would be so much more successful. And as you said, three steps forward and two backwards, that's not the way to go.
No.
Normally
Mm-mm.
it's better to do very little steps and then have one step and stay there, and then do the next step and stay there, like you'll
Yep.
win the race.
That
I
just reminds
agree.
me of like I never liked broccoli as a kid
Mm-hmm.
until my mom made cheesy broccoli
Wow.
one time, and I loved it. Uh, Probably because I love cheese. And the next time my mom made broccoli, she didn't make cheesy broccoli. It was just regular broccoli, and I had it, and I still enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay. I think and at least like for myself, I found out that my aversion to vegetables that I had to basically try and overcome as an adult was simply because like we grew up so poor that the what we could afford was the canned stuff. And anybody who has ever had garden fresh peas or frozen peas versus canned peas,
Right.
like it's not like I'm convinced it's not the same vegetable, because canned peas are just absolutely horrific. They're terrible. but
Agreed.
but fresh peas or frozen peas, once you got
Mm-hmm.
them warmed up, they taste great. They're fantastic. They're nice and sweet. They're enjoyable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not the same. It's same with like any number of different vegetables I had as a kid. Like I did not like them. Luckily, Devi's an amazing cook, and so a lot of
That's
the
it.
vegetables that I had despised as a kid, Debbie would cook it and be like, "Here, eat this and don't bitch about it." And I
Right.
would I would eat it and I'm like, "Oh my God, this is so good. How have I never liked this?" And the response was, "Well, you just never had a good version of it."
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Or the surroundings for it. Again, the woods in the forest,
Mm-hmm.
you fry that egg on, real fire, and you put a slice of bread, not in the toaster, but on the fire. And the
Yeah.
kids go like, this is delicious,
Right.
no thoughts of, oh, where's my, I don't know, granola, or can I have some jam? Can I have some peanut butter? No, it's so good because
Hmm.
it fits the surrounding, and it's a wonderful experience. And you can play on that when you go home and say, okay, now we're gonna have egg again, and try to remember the woods and
Right.
how it felt, having built this little shack and all that. So I think we
Hmm.
can go a long way with ourselves too, by attaching something that we want to change to a nice memory, or to
Yes.
Hmm.
something that speaks to our heart, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that can
think I
help.
Yeah.
think I think making it myself, making it from scratch, is that what you're talking about? Like frozen broccoli in a food processor, dump that into some tomato sauce with some store-bought raviolis, and I have this pretty great meal. And I used to dump ground beef into that or in my pasta, but now I'm just finding food processed frozen broccoli works great with garlic. It's
Yeah.
just
Hmm.
it's awesome. And I feel like, oh my God, I discovered the Plymouth Rock here. Like I know, you know what I mean? I know
That's
how
a
to
po-
like I was this year's old when I realized tomato paste in a can, tomato sauce from a can is ragu, just without the dump of seasoning.
Yeah,
So,
I mean that's a convenience that makes sense. Frozen fruit, you can
mhm,
make so many good dishes, healthy dishes
right.
with frozen food,
Mhm.
But the
frozen
thing is
vegetables.
if that's the only thing in your fridge is the frozen fruit or frozen vegetables, when you're hungry, you have to make that work and you have to make it
Yes,
flavorful.
yes.
But
Mhm.
I'll tell you, if you went out in the woods and you had a dozen eggs and four Snickers bars, your kids wouldn't have been eating those eggs.
Well, we hid two chocolate Easter bunnies
Aw,
in a cave and made them look for them. And they had so much fun.
in a
And
cave?
then yes,
Why didn't
and
we
then
start this with that? All right, hiding Easter bunnies in caves. I love
well
this idea.
they had to look for it. I wanted them to be, to keep that curiosity going, and that,
Uh-huh.
and I had bought them for Easter, and for some reason we
Aw.
didn't give it to them. And then I said, hey, now you have to, you can eat a little bit, but you have to portion it, because we don't know what's going to happen. Maybe we have to stay in this forest, and
Right.
you can't have it all. So just,
Mhm.
one ear, and then we see tomorrow. And they did. And they really did, because we were in this environment where it was clear to them. They don't know what the night is going to be like. They have no clue what the next day is going to be like. So they did.
Right.
They did a great job. And they would have preferred the eggs, I would say.
I
Oh
would
man,
too.
breakfast eggs on over a campfire. Oh, so good.
Yes.
Mm.
I have a lot of memories. Like there's my grandfather used to make something we call crick fries, and it's cubed up potatoes, onions, bell peppers,
Hmm.
um, just salt and pepper and butter. It's really simple, but there's just something about that over a campfire. It just is different, and it's so delicious.
Heck yeah.
Any number of different things that we used to do over the campfire, bacon,
Yeah.
eggs. uh I mean, even just crappy coffee that you've put on a percolator over a campfire tastes different. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's one of those things. I mean, even for Debbie, for example, Debbie hated coffee. Like the smell, the taste, it was just always like,
Wow.
but something clicked after a Burning Man experience, and now Debbie's probably more of an avid coffee drinker than I am.
The memory of that smell or that taste or the air
Yeah.
in the campgrounds, the air changes everything because your taste buds are in your mouth, but your nasal cavity pushes the air through, and it's just different in the woods.
Yeah, yeah, it is. Well, we stopped drinking coffee, but I stopped enjoying it for some reason, and then I
Right.
stopped drinking it, because if you don't enjoy something anymore, you should also be you should stop doing it.
I agree. I told somebody was like, I don't want to edit this podcast, but I want to. And I was like, don't do things that excite you when you're not excited to do them.
Yeah.
Like it's not mandatory. Just go do something that you love doing. And then when you're in the mood to do it,
Mhm.
do what you're supposed to do.
Yeah. If you
Yeah.
if you get to pick that, yeah. Yeah,
Heck yeah. Yeah.
definitely.
If you get to pick that. A lot of us, we just don't.
Right.
But a lot of
Yeah.
us build our lives so that we don't have to make choices. I think that's what most of partnerships and marriages are, just putting the task onto somebody else to make the decision for us. What's for dinner? I don't know. What did you make? Or where are we going? I don't know. Wherever you planned. So yeah.
That's a minefield.
Oh,
It,
I like the ability to have a relationship. I just think some people just do it to replace their parents as the person making decisions for them.
yeah,
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 yeah.
That's
yeah.
all.
No, I
That's all.
think you have to. I had this discussion many times. I think we have to all take the responsibility of making a fair amount of choices, and be
Mhm.
proactive about it. I have a hard time sometimes too, because it's the term decision fatigue.
Yeah.
Hmm.
You just
Yeah.
it hits me at about 9 p.m.
Mm.
I just don't want to make any decisions, and I shouldn't at that time either.
Right.
But other than that, I think we should assume the responsibility and do make decisions, especially with people that we know well.
Yeah.
Because otherwise we end up doing the same thing all the time, the same routine, just because we're too lazy to question it, or we're too lazy to go left because we've always gone right. And we miss out on a lot of fun in life by not assuming, the responsibility.
We deprogrammed ourselves from decisions. It's like we put them on autopilot so we don't have to be accountable to them. But then when our life stinks, like I think I said it last week, if you put everything off that sucks until tomorrow, you're going to have a shitty day tomorrow.
Or you stand in front of that candy bar. What did you say? Like this self-service thing?
Yeah.
And it makes the choice for you. Go get that candy bar. You don't look down. Just take that one.
So for me, like one of the conscious decisions that I'm making is like, look, I have the shakes. I found some, healthier snack options that I'm going to keep in my desk. And then instead of going up and going to that break room that has that, I'm going to pick a different spot, especially now summer's coming out here.
Oh yeah.
Spring and summer is. And I'm not going to go into that room because I know that if I go into that room, I'm going to look at that and I'm going to be like, man, I broke the habit of getting a soda when I go there. Now it's the habit of, getting a candy bar, which I've slowly started to break. And then I'm not going to be, now that I essentially work on a different floor of this building, it's not like right there. And so like, it's like, if I want that, I have to go out of the way, or I make a convenient choice for myself, a healthier, convenient choice for myself. And I make that more accessible than going to another place. And suddenly it's like, okay, well, I'm going to let myself be lazy and not go up there.
Right.
Let's grab this right here.
And a few weeks later, you won't even remember there is any candy bar waiting for you. It's all in your head.
I always say, if I want a candy bar, I'm going to eat an apple and drink a lot of water first. And then if I still want the candy bar, I'll eat as much of it as I want. But I'm not making it a meal. It's like I'm trying to put it in my mouth. I'm just like, I'm full, but I worked for this.
Yeah, I think we all have our hacks here. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. But I think it's fun to share them so that other people can hear them and be like, oh, that might work for me. Like what I want to learn next is yoga. I'm really excited about that.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful. Yoga is so great. Just make sure you have a good person to help you with the postures. That made it so much easier for me when I started.
We have a friend. He has a podcast and the Snack Network. He was in the chat for a while. I missed him, but he was a partner of ours for a while on Inspirations Beyond Disabilities, and then we all broke up to do our own things. So it's nice to see you. Hi, Dave. Sorry to break in. It's just interesting. He has videos about eating food, and one of the things that I cannot stand is watching people eat food. It drives me insane to hear them eat food. In fact, if there's a commercial and it has 3 crunches in it, I'll tweet like Tostitos and be like, 1 crunch. You get 1 crunch.
Why? Does it make you hungry or angry?
It makes my jaw clench, and I just get so frustrated with having to hear somebody eat potato chips, or I don't know why. If like I can't eat in front of people that aren't eating. If we're all eating, it's great. But if I'm the only one eating, I'll go somewhere else or I won't eat,
Yeah. Yeah. It's a bit awkward. That's true. That's true.
And watching people eat, I can't stand it. But that's me. And that's one of my phobias and anxieties. And now we're just kind of stretching out and saying, hey, anyway, anybody got any just the tips?
Ooh, just the tips.
Wow, these things are like famously just popular somewhere, I'm sure.
Hopefully.
Just the tip.
I would say I'm gonna go with find a way to be lazy and have the choice that you don't want to make ready for you. And that's something that I'm working on, where it's like, I've gotten used to the convenience of like we talked about, all of these different options and choices available to me, but they're not great options. So it's like, I'll make a decision now. This is what I'm going to do, and then make it lazy for myself. So it's like, all right, cool. This is right here and ready for me,
Right.
and have the better choice available. And so that's what I'm currently working on. And so far, it has helped me make a number of changes. As so far, those changes have brought me down 15 pounds.
Whoa.
Which is great, because I need to work on my heart health. And so let's see how this keeps going. I mean, so far there's been some great initial success.
Love it.
Yeah, that's great. And it hasn't cost you too much, right?
No.
You don't dream about candy bars at night.
And in fact, I would say that it hasn't cost me anything more financially either to make these choices. And I would actually even argue it's been cheaper, financially speaking, on some of these choices, because I'm not going out and spending a huge amount of money, $15-$20 on lunch. And instead I'm spending, maybe $3 on lunch instead.
Wow. Yeah.
And so even just from a financial standpoint, it has made it's going to make a huge difference.
It does.
So do you plan? Sorry.
No, 16 ounces of hummus cost me $2.50 to make, but in the store, that's like $16 worth of hummus. So it actually benefits me to buy like garbanzo beans in bulk and soak them every night so I can have hummus the next day,
Plus, what goes in there, right? Yeah,
exactly.
Especially hummus. Yeah. So you should actually take the money that you save, Jeffrey, and then treat yourself to something really cool.
Ooh.
And so far, what that is going to be is I'm treating myself to getting myself out of debt.
Oh, that's good. So you have a big chart where you can, check it off every time that you made progress on that.
Yep.
Oh, man, I love
one candy bar at a time. That's great.
Yeah, one candy bar, one lunch, one fast food lunch, or one expensive lunch at a time. It really does add up. It's huge.
Yeah, but it's all about the tiny proactive choices you can make to eliminate the tiny negative choices you're making. Yeah, and I like that. Like if you're running, you're not doing anything else but running. You're not eating bad. You're not having any other bad habits. You're just running, and that fills the time that you would use twiddling your thumbs and picking up a new bad habit. So I think we should all fill our lives with more positives. And if you don't know what to do, drink more water. And listen to another episode of Public Access America. Yeah, my tip is to go get the Ear Kick app because this thing is fascinating. Thank you, Karen. And you're going to stick around, right?
Of course.
Okay. Then this is the end of this show. Thank you for listening to Public Access America. Go get the Ear Kick app, listen to more Public Access America, drink more water, and make better habits. We are going to come back for the next episode, which will be our Thursday episode, which I'm excited about. If you're listening to the live stream, you get to hear it. But if you're listening to the podcast, bye. Wow. Hi, Dan.
Hi, folks. How's it going?
Good. I had this great opening for this show, and I didn't know if I could do it because you were coming in an hour late. But I wanted to be like, hey, Public Access League, thanks for joining me here in Orlando.
Love it. I love it.
Because I can't get past the point that, when I thought about it, Dan, you totally have my Superman vibe going on there, and Jeffrey, I'm sorry, I can't get past Aquaman with you. And Karen, I don't want to gender stereotype, but you are what I would want in a Wonder Woman. You know what I mean? And just it leaves me as Batman arranging all this. So
okay, Jason. Funny enough, like the old English, old German pronunciation of my last name is Seewarta, which meant guardian of the sea.
Perfect.
Really?
That's what I'm saying.
That's perfect.
So I'm like,
oh
man, really? And I'm like, okay, that actually somewhat makes sense, and I hate it.
It does. And you can't tell me that if Karen walked into a school and said, I'm Wonder Woman, you wouldn't listen to everything she had to say. She's just that positive and insightful. And Dan, come on, you swoop in. You stood in front of the Capitol when we needed it. You went to Pennsylvania and tracked when we needed it. You're going all over the country in hot spots where we need it. That is the definition of Superman.
Oh.
And if I didn't want to be equivalated to the lawnmower man, I'm just going to go with Batman.
Well, you are running all the tech for this show, so I guess you got to be the more technical one of the.
Right.
Kind of works.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. So Dan, I'm going to ask you what's top of mind for you before we get into any like subjects and anything like that.
Well, that's actually a good question. I came in kind of with a blank slate, looking forward to having some fun with you guys. But I think if I was to say top of my mind still is unfortunately the situation in Ukraine right now. I was just driving past yesterday. There was a Ukrainian Orthodox church and school in one of the suburbs where I live, which I hadn't been to in a while, and I'd forgotten it was there. So I was thinking more about that and how things are kind of reignited there, and how that's been kind of a stressful time for those of us who are potentially involved or could get potentially involved in everything. So, but also thinking about how it's not just obviously the primary attacks and the violence and everything going on, but just the fact that the country's getting really devastated as well. So it's a bit of a downer, but that's kind of what I've been thinking about a little bit more recently. But more locally, I've also been thinking about how it went from snowing on Monday until the 90s yesterday. And it's like, great, we got a 36 hours spring, and now we're just going to be in full on summer mode and thinking about that. So those are the two things on my mind. Very diametrically opposed there, but those are that's going on. So I figured both of those, and the situation of Ukraine and the existential issues of climate change might be a good way to start talking about the value of anxiety support system. So
let me tell you
a little bit of thematic there.
How about I combine the two and let you know that there has not been this much human ash in our atmosphere since World War II.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, and it isn't anything other than Ukrainian people right now, or Russian people from Ukraine, or people that lived in Ukraine. That's just a devastating thing to think about. But that's the only way I could combine it. I'll tell you, my heart is in Mariupol, and I don't know what's going to happen to those people, but it's going to drastically affect the way I feel about Russian people generally, and more specifically, the Russian government. Like, that lady that died crawling out of the hospital, the pregnant lady, that had me. And I was like, there's no going back. But if you're just going to seal those people off in Mariupol and make that a monument, I don't know if I will ever respect the word Russian again. And that stinks. That stinks.
It is really hard for sure. And I think it's difficult to see as well. I think what's also frustrating as well is that I've obviously seen this a lot of people who have been trying to advocate and raise money or send over resources and everything. But I think what's also kind of been frustrating is that on the American side, it seems to be, because it's such a hot button issue, a lot of people are trying to kind of personally take advantage of it and say, oh, well, we're going to do this or whatever, and we stand with Ukraine. It's like, no, stop with the performative activism. Like, if you're going to do something awesome, we'll support you. But don't just write, there was a restaurant I went to a couple weeks ago, and there was an extra line that they had printed. It's like, here's your bill, here's a line for your tip, and here's an extra line for Ukraine. Add some money there and total. It's like, no, you're not sending this money to Ukraine. Come on. Like, right. don't kid yourself. Don't try to kid us into thinking that you're going to just be taking on. And if so, where are you going to spend it? Who's going to be involved? And I think I think it kind of ties into the fact that there's a lot of performative activism that happens in this country about a lot of issues. And I think we don't have enough voices for entities and organizations that actually do constructive and productive work. And everyone just tries to jump on the bandwagon. So I think one way that we can kind of reflect on that in our society is we can obviously feel sad and sorry and frustrated about the situation going on, but we can also think about ways that we can improve our ability to mobilize American resources to help people. And it can help start in our own backyard, right? We can do things better, but a lot of that also is based on the exchange of information. So that's kind of where I'm thinking about all of this, where it's hitting close to home is the feelings, but also bandwagoning and how we can prevent that and be a little bit more judicious about it.
Like
Yeah.
there's a guy here in Olympia. He runs a couple of food shops in town, and COVID had everything shut down for him. And right as he was about to open, a sewer main burst, and his shop was just basically completely ruined. They had to gut the whole thing. And right as they're still working through all the legal stuff, he's trying to get fixed, the war in Ukraine breaks out, and the guy's like, I make food, this is what I do. And he just up and left for Poland to help run a kitchen out there, in order to feed refugees coming across the border into Poland. And so like it's been really interesting when you talk about performative activism, because you see this in a wide range of results. You've got people who are trying, saying, I stand with Ukraine. They do all the hashtags, all the pictures, and everything else, but there's not really a whole lot else that's going into those just those hashtags. And it's great to show support, but like you said, there's a number of different performative acts that we've seen, and we've seen time and time again. Even for me, it's like, even I've questioned, if and when this is over, I feel like there's something that I want to / need to do, and I'm trying to figure out what that is do I go over and volunteer some time for a couple of weeks to help out in one of the communities out there and help them clean up and rebuild? What can I do? And then of course I've got any number of different posts and things going through of how people are, I'm going to go volunteer with the Ukrainian military. It's like, you have zero training, you are a liability. It's like, I'm armed to the teeth, and there's no way in hell I'm going over there to volunteer my time. Why? Because I don't know dick about combat or running security. That's walking around with a gun is not going to have this, not going to be the help that you need. What they need is trained people that know what they're doing. If you're not that, you're a liability.
Yeah, I get a lot of I would have joined the military, but I would have punched my drill sergeant vibes.
Yeah,
these people.
Hell, you would have.
And there are some people who've gone over who have the experiences. A lot of veterans who have made the decision to volunteer, and I fully respect them for it and everything.
Absolutely.
And it's also important to consider the greater socio-political context of it, right? What happens when Russia kills an American soldier with an American flag? Because they all wear it. I don't know if they all do, but a lot of the international members of the regiment they're setting up wear a flag of their home regiment. Now, what happens if one of them gets killed in combat? Now the Russians are like, hey, the United States military is in this. It's important to and it's really hard to think about those difficult things because you want to go over and help, but it's trying to find that balance is really difficult. It's like politically, and thinking of the bigger picture. It's like, how much good can I do as a fighter on the front lines versus being a baker who can go over and help prepare food, or volunteering with a more reputable organization that's setting up a larger mission, right? It's important to make those decisions. And I like what you're saying about I want to do something, but I'm trying to figure it out. A lot of people just kind of rush into the first opportunity they get and just get overwhelmed with it and realize that they're either they don't end up doing anything productive, or they end up, like you said, actively harming or being a liability. And we've seen this again, issues with COVID, with emergency staffing, people volunteering to join like the Medical Reserve Corps, not having any experience, previous conflicts. Look at everything that happened with the Red Cross in Haiti in 2011, all those billions of dollars that happened, and there was no plan. And then 6 homes got built with the billions of dollars that were donated.
Yep.
Right? There's all kinds of issues, not just, there's snakes in the grass, obviously, but there's also programs that do not have good surge plans.
Right.
So how do we increase our staff by 600%, quintuple our budget in 2 weeks, and not completely fold as an organization, right? And that's a huge challenge in these emergencies. And it's I think we focus a lot on preparedness. Like, that's a little bit of my background is like emergency response and preparedness, right? We focus a lot of it on what do we need to do in order to respond to something when we are affected, but also on the flip side, what do we do with all the stuff that we get? Because if we get the publicity, we get the profile, how do we manage those extra logistics?
Right.
And I think a lot of people think of emergencies as we are out of supplies, but sometimes you can have too many supplies and not know what to do with it, right? So that's kind of where I'm thinking about that.
I think we've learned that we can just throw money at everything and anything, and so we just throw money anywhere and everywhere. But if we could think of long-term solutions, more like investing in a Peace Corps, instead of throwing our money into that, maybe investing in something like the Peace Corps, or as we can for Ukraine, we'll promote organizations that we've looked into that benefit Ukraine and not the infrastructure to collect the money to give a portion of it to Ukraine.
Mm.
That's a really good point. I like that a lot. And focusing on entities that really give good training and
Right.
earmarking money for training of personnel, because that's so often overlooked, right? People will get all kinds of supplies,
Yep.
donate all kinds of cash, but earmark it for, training of X individuals to do this, right? There's a lot of
Right.
nonprofits that have to, by law, follow what those donations do.
Right.
And that's a really commonly overlooked issue. And if you're
Mm.
able to force money in that direction knowledgeably, that can pay dividends many times over, much more so than just sending a can of soup to your local soup kitchen. Nothing wrong with local soup kitchen, of course, but there's ways to use your money more judiciously and more effectively to get more bang for your buck, in some cases quite literally.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, just do a lot of research and due diligence on and where the money's going, or what you're doing, if it's needed and when it's needed most. And
Mhm.
I think that's what a lot of people lack, is just sitting down and doing a very good research around that. It's very easy, convenient to just give money to
Right.
somewhere, right?
Right.
And then feel good about it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And the same thing is true for like new startups and new emerging businesses that kind of grow, right? They can have a massive influx of cash, but without the logistics to handle it, they can often fold. That actually happened to a
Yeah.
company I recently worked with, and it actually went under
Mm.
because they had a huge investment and then they just were not able to reorganize their infrastructure. So I'm curious of how this relates to Karen's experience with EarKick, right? Having additional resources come up, how do you manage and support that work for yourself as you're starting to gain this publicity?
That's a great question.
Yeah, it's a very good question. It starts with, again, due diligence and doing your homework. So we made sure that we had a very good 18-month plan and planned out how much money we actually really need. And then you raise that and not more, because more money can become a problem very, very fast. It's a liability. And if you don't have a clear plan on what you're going to spend that money on, then it's going to be in your way. As an example, like we closed the round at 1 million and started working, because for us it was so important to start working and to start hiring. We knew that we were up against the big companies in terms of talent. So we knew that if we want to hire a very, very good machine learning engineer, that we were up against Amazon, Apple, and Facebook. They're all in Zurich too. And so we knew it could take anywhere between 3 and a month and a year to find the right person, and it did take longer. So now imagine raising more money. More money is not going to get you the right person. And then you sit on that money and your plans go wrong, because the bottleneck is not the money. The bottleneck is the talent. And that's why we did not raise more. And we started working and we started looking for the right people. Thank God we found the right machine learning wizard, Gagan. Amazing guy. He's working for the cause. He has a PhD. He's exactly the right mindset, but it took time, not money. It took time.
Interesting. I would think with Facebook and Twitter's reputations and going downhill, a lot of these people would be abandoning ship for smaller independent projects like yours.
You would really
not necessarily,
right?
Obviously, money is money, right?
Money is money, and that's the thing is like it really takes somebody who money is important. Don't get me wrong, but you also have to believe in the values, the company values of what you're getting, and
yes.
A lot of the times finding that individual that has the skill set, but also believes in the mission to the point of I'm one of those people, like, I like money? Yeah. Would I work for a larger company? It really depends on what
Yeah,
it is I would be doing. But at the
Right.
same time
totally.
too, like, I like working for the smaller guys because there's a mission focus there that's more on community than on just providing a service. And so it's a really tough one, because at some
Right.
point, we all have our price, whether we want to admit it or not.
Yes.
But at some point, but depending on what you're doing and depending on what your situation looks like, sometimes that price is really high, sometimes that price is not as high as you'd like it to be. But if you find the right thing that sparks, I mean, for lack of a better word, sparks joy in what you're doing,
Yeah.
sometimes it's a lot easier to sacrifice the money because you have something that, holistically fits with your value system.
Karen's looking
Yeah.
at you like she wants to hire you now just because you said that.
Oh,
Well,
he's absolutely right.
I mean,
You know
I wouldn't mind coming over to Switzerland. I mean, my German isn't as good as I'd like it to be, but I can still speak a bit. I can still understand.
We only speak English, and people live wherever they want. We have a almost zero meeting culture, so no meetings required. You can live wherever you want, and the people who work for us, they don't even have to report hours or anything. They just need to work, be focused, and take enough breaks, stay mentally healthy, and they get money if they take vacations. They get money if they take vacations. So because we know exactly what it takes to keep someone well, engaged, and honest. And
Why?
to your point before, we had at least two talents. Really, everything was great about their CV and etc. But they were earning 800K a year. And it's not like they wouldn't settle in for less, but 800K is nowhere near what we can pay and what we want to pay. Because again, money, anyone can do money.
Mm-hmm.
But if you hire someone that chooses you for the money, he's going to leave you for the money. So, it wasn't a fit because they had also, I mean, they have a house and they have their children in college and whatnot. So they have gotten themselves into a situation where they cannot just, leave and settle for a startup salary, right?
Right.
So it didn't work out. We had to find the right person in the right situation with the right mindset and the right set of skills, and that just takes time, and it's not a matter of money. If we had those 800,000 a year, it wouldn't have worked out because it's the wrong incentive. It's the wrong situation. We need someone hungry, young,
Right.
with all their, with the future in front of them, who wants to experience, not someone who's had it all, seen it all, done it all. They're not going to be hungry enough.
Anybody can come in for $500,000 a year and monetize your
Yes.
app to the point of
Yes.
non-use, right? But you want somebody that's going to develop the app over the profits, so
Yes.
that in long term you have something consistently profitable as opposed to just instantly profitable and then goes away. I like that.
We want to keep the team. If you add the right person, it's like adding $2 million of worth of value to your company. So you better choose well.
Right.
I'm a late millennial. I won't date myself explicitly, but I do have a number of friends who are like right on the cusp between like millennial age and starting to have Gen Z. And I think it's really interesting the way that you're framing this, because it reflects a lot of what kind of the changing values about employment by young people are, especially in like it's not the Great Recession. What are we calling it now? Like
Great Resignation.
Great Resignation. Yeah. Thank you. Right. A lot. And I was part of this, right? I ended up leaving a company because, they did a lot of great lip service to, we want to have a good work-life balance and all this stuff and everything. And
they all do that now.
And then there's a real difference between saying, we want to do this, and being like, no, this is how it's going to happen. This is what we know. Let's listen to our base and see what we want to have as a company culture. And I feel like, a lot of us in the 20s range who are like early career, the number one phrase that I keep hearing from my friends and my peers about why they didn't like jobs or what's frustrating about them is like, I wish that there was more impact. I wish there was more value behind what I did, right? Yeah. We are increasingly valuing jobs that aren't just, turn the crank, get the money, do the thing, right? We want impact. We want to have our time be made material. And it's like, this sounds really cheesy, but like the E=mc² equation, like energy and mass, like energy is potential and mass is energy made real. It's like time and money are almost the same thing. It's like money is time with potential, and time is money made real, basically, right? And I think that's a balance that is really shifting very quickly in the age of instant information that we're in. And it's a lot of established entities and corporate businesses just have not caught up to really, they think, oh yeah, we can do this. No, you have to really understand that and build your company from the ground up to attract young people to really want to work for you. That's just my perspective. But I would love to hear Karen's opinion, like as a
totally
directing this great. I really want to hear from whether or not you agree, disagree, if this is your experience.
I totally agree. And when I was still managing director of Impact Hub Zurich, we were battling with this problem because we wanted people to stay, and the Gen Z, that generation, they came in and with the old-fashioned kind of offering them more pay or offering them the typical perks, and they didn't care. They told me, look, first of all, I don't want to work 100%. I'm going to work 80% max. And I want a sabbatical after a year. And I want to have a title, not a title per se, but like I want to own something.
I want to tell my mom that I'm making progress. And part of the profit is moving to Zurich. So I want time off to enjoy that. I'll take less money to be less responsible, but to be in Zurich and tell my mom that I live in Zurich with a title. Right.
Well, but that's so true. You're so right about that. I really like what you say about ownership. Like you can decide what you want to do, but give something, make it your own, have it be that, like, I am responsible for this, right? My last job that I left, I had a 25% raise from the previous job I had. I left it after like 9 or 10 months because they did not let me have ownership. And I said, let me try to do this. I offered again and again. I have all these great ideas. I want to try to push for this. I want to create this product. Give me again and again and again and again. And they said, okay, we'll take that into consideration. And I was like, what am I doing? I'm just turning a crank, writing a report, giving it to somebody else. I was working remotely and had great flexibility, but what was the point? I didn't have anything that was mine. I didn't have the impact. There was nothing that was like the Dan stamp on that thing. Yeah. So it really is great that you're reflecting a lot of that in your hiring practices and your corporate philosophy.
We have to, it's not a convenience. It's like we have to. Nobody's going to come if you don't change, the working culture to something different, something that suits this talent pool. Right. It's just not going to work. And money is the least problem. It's other things. Again, we had to hire engineers, and for them, having a zero meeting culture was what made them apply. Right. It's not the money. It was also the mission, but also knowing that they're not going to spend half the time in some, meetings, pretending that they're interested, right? So we have a very specific way of communicating. We use Loom, we use Slack, we use a few tools, and our engineers can, they can focus all day. They can work. We don't care when they work, as long as they kind of, they react when there is really something.
As long as everything works, I don't care.
And it can get the job done when it needs to be done.
Yes, and it can be asynchronous, and right. what really keeps us on the floor is we have a 14-year-old hired. She still goes to school, and the way she thinks about purpose and working and all of that is very different. So we have her because she's been suffering from anxiety and panic attacks since she was 9. So she's an expert. And the way she looks at the world and what she wants and what is value to her is so different. And that's going to be the kind of person that we're going to hire, and people are going to hire in a few years. That's going to be the working force. So we learn from her what is actually an incentive to people, and not not promote things that people don't want just because it was fashionable 20 years ago. When I was around, maybe that worked, but Gen Z is totally different. Totally different.
They don't need a 401k. They just want the experience, and then they'll move to another experience, I feel.
I think we've given up on the concept that a 401k, like the depressing thing, and I'm sure I'd love to hear about this, but there's a certain lack of belief in long-term investment in our generation, because we think, well, in 20 years, the sea levels are going to rise. There's probably going to be a nuclear holocaust, and the rich are going to own everything. So what's the point of saving my money till I'm 65 because I'm going to be dead by 40, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of that kind of resignation. People don't really want to acknowledge it, but I hear a lot of that in the humor of the mid to late millennials and the older Gen Z.
Yeah.
And it's kind of disturbing. And it's something that we need to recognize for many, many reasons. But one of the perhaps the more utilitarian methods is, employment, right? You definitely want to give people a chance to invest and have their assets grow and everything. And you have to recognize the moral philosophical changes that have happened in our generation that are so fundamentally different from the people who are, executive management, CEO in the boardroom level. Because again, all this communication, this evolutionary philosophy has accelerated so much in the age of social media. And we're using platforms like TikTok that most people don't even most people don't even know exist, but just write off as, oh, this is a stupid little app. It's like, no, there are huge communities that are happening and building, and if you just forget or ignore them because, oh, that's just what the young people are doing. Look, what the young people are going to be the future. You might as well start listening to them. So it's interesting.
Yes.
So what's the work-life balance of a 14-year-old who works at Earkick and then goes to
Right.
So she basically she goes to school. She can't go to school fully because of her anxiety and depression that sometimes still hits her. And so she works. We have a call with her every week, and she works at her own pace, and she's required to just be herself, and that's not as easy as it sounds.
I know,
but
right?
everything that we do and decide, we show to her, and she needs to be very focused then and really be herself and try to understand how she she really feels about it, not what we want to hear, but what she really feels about. And that's her work. She's quite wise about taking breaks and not working. She does cancel the call if there is something that she can handle at that moment.
Okay.
The only thing we require, and she requires, is a good communication. And we do it, again, asynchronous via Slack. And once in a while, you kind of have to see each other physically if possible. I mean, people in the Ukraine, unfortunately, can't join our retreats. And what she also needs is to be treated like a grown-up, and we do that. I mean, we're aware that she's 14, but in many things, she's very grown-up, and she wants to be treated as a grown-up in that moment.
And
I always speak to her.
An expectation, right?
Totally. I always speak to her grown-up person. I speak to what I think and believe she will become. I speak to the grown-up Ella, and it's wonderful to have this vision about her and what she can become, and we try to foster this ambition also in our younger employees, that they can they can be entrepreneurs. We're not going to be in their way. So for them, it's not I have to stay this and this many years. No, this is your apprenticeship. If you make it that, and if the time comes to go, then we'll work it out together, and we'll help you, on your next step. And that has worked out very well with all my younger employees back in my last job, to really make yourself a sparring partner rather than like the boss who's, trying to gauge whether you're applying somewhere else. That's not going to work. They're so smart. I'm not going to tell you.
In all my years of working I went through secondary school. I worked as a youth sports official. In college, I worked in multiple research labs and other jobs. And obviously, since I graduated college, I've worked several other jobs too. In all of my early career experience, I have never once been told by an employer or a supervisor to be myself. And you said
What a
that.
waste.
You said that. You were like, oh yeah, we want her to be herself, right? That's like,
Right.
yeah. So to be who you want me to be. It's like, no, who I am. I very firmly identify as like being the proactive idea guy who wants to create things and come in and not say you're doing it wrong, but say let's do other cool things as well. And
Yeah.
that has always, always, always been suppressed in all of my time working in my early career, and it's been so frustrating to see because everyone in my generation, I don't want to say everyone, but lots of people in my generation feel the exact same way, right? We want to be engaged. We want people to say, what do you think, Dan? I hear you. What ideas do you have, right? And to hear you talking about that is so refreshing, but also a little bit sad because it seems like such an obvious concept that is so fundamentally missed. And then all these companies are like, well, we're offering them an extra raise and all this extra. I mean, no, they're not coming to employ. Why don't they want to work at Chipotle? All right. Well, I mean, what kind of company culture do you have? Are you going to just tell them to sit down and shut up and work, or are you going to say, hey, let's see what we can do to make this work? And it's like sometimes you can't do that with all your jobs, but the great resignation's happening in that demographic of jobs where people could be engaged better and they are being told, no, you're going to do it
totally
like it.
Right.
You know, the funny thing about she asked me why she should do that, and I said, Ella, this is the only time you're going to be 14, because next year you're going to be 15. So my only chance to understand a 14-year-old is now. So you have to be yourself. Don't try to be someone else, right?
Right.
And that applies to, I was working with an activist in my last job, and people tried to force her into another role, be more like a consultant, but they're missing out on her best part. You know, activists like in their 20s, they're so strong. I mean, they come to work, they have this immense, passion about, they're never going to be like that again. When they hit 30, 40, they're just a different person. They're a different package. And you only get that package once. If you don't use it, screw you, really.
Right.
Fair.
There's an expiration date on youth that I don't think people pay enough attention to.
Yeah.
At some point we die in the side and we just go with what's working, instead of bucking the system. That's interesting to me. And like you keep talking about the great resignation. I was talking to my friend and I said it wasn't 10 million jobs. It was 2 million people getting a job, quitting, getting a job, quitting, getting a job, quitting. Because I don't think employers are changing the way you are. I think they think they know they have to, but they just cannot treat employees like the ecosystem that they are. They think that employees are interchangeable and a new one at a lower cost can do the same thing if pushed hard enough as the one that with experience they let go,
I'd like to hear the thoughts of the group on this, right? I'm just starting to come to this realization now because this like the mental juices flow so well when I'm on this show, and I really appreciate the value about that, right? But you think about, so let's think about what employment culture was, right? Back in the era, and I know international company based in Switzerland, everything different story, but as an American, I'll talk about like the American dream of the nice colonial house with the white picket fence and the stability and all that stuff, right? That was the motivator because it was feasible back from the 50s through the 80s or whatever. That's really not possible anymore. If you just look at the basic economics of what the late millennials and Gen Z are facing, we're not going to have that. We don't have that motivation to say, well, if you just knuckle down and just do this X job that's kind of menial and you shift papers from one tray to another tray, you can go home and really enjoy this wonderful house and this wonderful stability and this permanent luxury that you have of having access to healthcare, having a good mortgage, not being defaulting in your debt, and being able to have free time, right? We don't have that anymore. So you can't just say, turn the crank and you'll make money, because there's no guarantee for us that, oh, well, we'll go buy this house. I'm sorry, average house in my neighborhood right now is what, $700,000, and people are buying them like at 25% markup because of this housing bubble that we're in. You can't goad me by saying, oh, if you just do this for 20 years, you'll get a house. No. That's not what happens. So what motivates young people is not the material gains from menial labor. It's the value that is intrinsically entwined into the work that they do. And that's why millennials and Gen Z say, I want impact, I want impact. No job has had impact in this great resignation sector because it didn't have to, because the money promised the impact outside of work. But that impact outside of work is just not a reality for most millennials anymore. So that's my hypothesis, but I'd love to hear what you guys think.
It's the same actually in Europe and Switzerland. So no difference here. People can't afford a house. Young people, forget it. It's like not possible.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jeffrey.
this is where it's going to get fun, and I think what we're missing here is historical context. You know, in the 50s, you have to remember that whole dream of the house with the white picket fence. You're looking at a group of people who either lived through the Great Depression or whose parents lived through the Great Depression in a time of great instability. And so because of that great instability during that time, and the fact that you could not find anything stable for work, and you know, you looked at, you know, if you had work, it was more like day laborer status, up until the point where you end up in the war. All of this great instability that you had leads to this strange appreciation for stable, but oftentimes, quote unquote, meaningless work. It wasn't that you had these people that were, you know, not going to have ideas or didn't want to buck the system. It's that they lived through enough instability that when they finally found it, they were perfectly fine with staying in these very stable but very dead-end jobs. And that was how they made their system work for them during that time period. They lived through so much upheaval and chaos that the idea of just having something that was going to be there tomorrow and the day after, the month after, the year after, that for them was security. And the problem is that, you know, for our generation, you know, like I'm at that weird cross section where, you know, I'm a millennial, but I'm closer towards Gen X in a lot of ways.
You're like an earlier millennial. I'm a later millennial. Yeah,
exactly. And so like, you know, even, you know, like Gen Z, there's a lot that, you know, happen to relate with. You know, for us, it's like that idea that you could have stability has not been present for us. Ever since I've gotten out of school, it has been completely unstable. You know, between, you know, you had the dot-com bust, you had the auto industry go down, you had the financial crisis, the global financial crisis, and we've moved from instability to instability to instability. And for us, the value system has changed. We don't, you know, we're not used to stability at this point, because we're so used to these large corporations taking advantage of us and dumping us off when they've used us, that we don't have the same value system that the older generation does. We're used to the idea that somebody's going to use us, and then when they're done with us, kick us to the curb. And now, for the first time in my adult life, that has been flipped on its head, and now these companies are coming after me because they can't get anybody in the door.
Because we're all done with them.
And I'm fucking over them, because I would rather do something with somebody else who's felt themselves in a similar way and actually focus on community and actual needs to drive actual impacts, rather than these organizations that have been around and turned and burned people, use them up and spit them out. And I can say good riddance to them. Their business model does not work anymore for me, because my value system has seen how they have used up people like me and spit them out once they didn't fit their idea of what should happen. They, you know, they either didn't want to innovate, or they didn't want to focus on
dinosaurs. They didn't know how. And you know what? I want to add that the pandemic gave us all a chance to live on almost nothing, because we couldn't get out to get anything. So we learned to live on almost nothing. And now companies want to pay us nothing. And we're like, we can survive at home on that.
And without, you know? and also the pandemic took away a lot of our, the activities that gave us meaning.
Right.
And so we were told to go home and live with nothing and also do nothing. So we had a lot of time to reflect on what we cared about. And this is kind of the emergence of that. So Karen, what do you think?
I agree with what you say. I made another observation as well with the Gen Z folks. So whenever I interview people, unless they have to do a technical interview, which would be with someone else, I try to find out what their passion is and where their heart is, and what, if possible, their bucket list is. Because it tells you a lot. And what I've observed is that they, quite a number of Gen Z folks, they want to go travel, not for leisure or, for whatever, making selfies, as people sometimes think they want. They say to me, I want to see the world while I still have it. I want to see nature while I still, while it exists. I want to see, I don't know, the glaciers while they're still there.
Because the future is bleak after that point, right?
Right.
Correct. And that I'm not going to wait until like I have enough money. I can survive on couch surfing. I have this plan, like I'm going to do this. And I am not going to do this in a rush in 3 weeks. I want you to give me half a year or a year of sabbatical within my, contract, so that I can do that. And that's how I found out how utterly important it is for people that we hire, that they can work from wherever they want. They can work from the beach if they want. They can be on the road. If they get their stuff together, if they have a plan and they're organized and structured to some extent, and if they stay mentally healthy, I'm fine, And some of them, so the traveling part and experience, they want to live, like they're thirsty for life and doing things that they have read about. They want to experience it themselves. They don't want to accumulate a ton of stuff.
Right. That's important. They don't want to accumulate a lot of possessions.
Not at all.
They
Cars,
want to be able
forget
to move
it.
fast. Right.
Yes.
Pictures, tables, lamps. They don't care.
No, they will go to a concert that they believe in, or they will do things that they believe in terms of nature trips or whatever. But it's not going to get a car and then a washing machine in an apartment. It's not that. And the other thing is that they have, how shall I say? They have a clear idea of let's say a project or a big thing that they want to do. And when you talk with them about it, it becomes clear that they have maybe a black and white picture of it, but they don't quite see the colors yet. And the job is to never doubt their picture, but to, have their back and to help them feel those colors without making them feel, naive or inferior, which they are not. Right. And that they want this kind of leadership. They don't want you to kind of tell them, okay, now you have to sweat your way off or something. They want you to be a good and guiding sparring partner. And if you feel during the interview that you're not going to be able, for whatever reason, to be that sparring partner, don't hire them, because you're not doing yourself a good favor. You're not doing them a good favor. You're both going to suffer. And that's a lesson I had to learn. I had to let go of people early because of that. And I'm glad I did, for their sake and for my own sake. Of course. And I'm getting better at it, but it's still like, you can't listen enough to them. They will give you all the clues. If I could, I would voice record it to listen over and over, because in that interview, they will give you all the cues, consciously or unconsciously. They do. And that's the magic about it. And that's why I believe in that generation, even though, people say they have a lot of flaws and they're lazy and they're entitled and all that stuff.
They are so well researched. They will know everything about your company before they even set up an interview.
What they need is that we believe in them, and that we kind of color their vision, and not judge them for, let's say, only using a few colors, because they can easily grow into it.
Right. They don't know green exists until they're shown green. And then when they add it to their picture, they see it in a whole new way. And now they want to know what purple and orange are,
Yes. And that's how you grow a real leader. How you grow. I mean, they can lead at 30. It's not a problem at all. They can even lead earlier, but you have to guide them, and you have to give them the responsibility very early when they're still making mistakes. And that's the beauty of it. Let them make mistakes. They'll learn so fast. And it's not you need to make it very clear. I want you to make the mistakes now, not later.
Right.
really
That's my
like
whole
that.
theory on parenthood. If you just let your kids make mistakes till they're 18, they won't make those mistakes after 18, you know?
Some will, but yes, generally, yes.
Right.
Agree.
One thing that I picked up on, and I feel like I'm falling into pattern of catching one word from each of Karen's answers, right? But the concept of partnership, right? That's another philosophical evolution that's happened in the last 10-ish years that a lot of companies haven't come up. Before, a lot of it was, I give you money and you do this work, right?
Yeah.
That's that sector of employment will always be there, from people who come in and pressure wash your front driveways. Like, I will give you money to pressure all the contract work, all the I hate using the term blue collar because it seems demeaning, but that
Service
industrial
industry.
work, right, is really the service industry that's there, right?
Right.
But again, the demographic that the Great Resignation is getting hit most by are the people who working in jobs where they want that partnership that Karen's talking about, right?
Right. The
I want to come
responsibility,
in,
right?
and I have my experience, I have my perspectives. I'm younger. I don't have everything figured out. I know I don't have everything figured out. And by
But you
the way,
don't
I
have the
don't.
baggage of habits either, you know?
And I don't need you to tell me that I don't have everything figured out. Thank you very much, right? But I do have interests, and I have goals, and I have dreams and things like that. And I want to try and conceptualize something, just like Karen was talking about. Like, can I try this out with your work? And if employers and supervisors embody more, I think the phrase that is the type of leadership, like a transformational servant leadership model.
Yeah.
That's kind of the buzzword for it. But how can I support you, person who is technically my subordinate, but I want to work with you as a partner, right? As opposed to my person who does this thing, she does this for me, he does this for me, I make the money and I represent it up, right? Now, having that co-equal partnership is something, again, that just is culturally, we're behind the times in kind of the white collar class of work, and people like Karen are picking up on the change that needs to happen, but it's not happening fast enough because late millennials and Gen Z are pushing that change by saying, no, I'm not working for you anymore because you're not providing me this, right? I can speak firsthand multiple times over. I've had multiple jobs where I've not been seen as a partner and I wanted to be. And people say, oh, you just need to manage your own expectations of yourself. Literal verbatim quote. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go this way. And that happens to be the door. Goodbye. Right. And I did quit my last job at 4:30 p.m. on a Friday, effective immediately with no day's notice, because it was just, I was done with them. And they actually had the audacity to laugh at me after they deliberately did not invite me to a meeting about a topic that I had created and wanted to push forward. And they decided to deliberately cut me out of the meeting because I wasn't high ranking enough. So they took my idea and they were like, oh yeah, those senior people talked about it and you weren't there because you weren't old enough or weren't senior enough. Okay.
Oh gosh.
Thanks for talking about that on Wednesday. I'm gonna hold off until Friday afternoon. I don't care. I don't have another job lined up. But 4:30 on a Friday. Oh, you want to have a meeting with me, HR? Boom. Here's my letter of resignation, effective immediately.
There you go.
Right.
Yeah.
It's all based on this fact that Dan would outshine anyone else in that meeting, get notice, and suddenly all the managers that didn't want to put in the work to be better would find themselves without a job, because people that want to work are always better than people that don't. But for some reason, management always consists of the people that failed upwards, and then they protect their jobs by denying people below them.
It's so stupid because you are supposed to hire people that are smarter than you.
Yeah.
And that's what I do all day, right? Hire people that are smarter than me. And when they come in the door, you should treat them as that. I'm not saying they're more experienced and they're smarter. That's why I hired them.
It's something, so if they're not everything, something.
If we're not going to let them bring in their smartness in full, right? The whole package. Why do you hire them?
That's right.
Exactly. And that's been one of the biggest things that my generation and Gen Z have seen is that, yeah, okay, we get it. We don't necessarily come in with all of the experience, but when we propose ideas and we get laughed at, and then suddenly, like 3 months later, they're like, hey, that idea, I've got this idea. And it's like, I was just talking to you about that and you fucking laughed at me.
Right.
And that's the thing is like, even for my age, like most people, like, oh, well, you don't have any management experience. I'm like, I have managed 3 multi-million-dollar companies. and I'm 36. So when you tell me that I don't have any management experience because I haven't managed at an organization, I'm going to laugh at you because I have managed more than most of your managers have. I have more education, I have different experience, and I am more well read on industry standards. And I don't fall under the, well, if we're just going to keep doing what we've always done. Now, that's where I expect the people who are more experienced and have more time in to say, okay, I like what you're doing. Here's the framework we have to work in. If you can figure out how to make this work within this framework, let's try it. But most of them are like, no, we're not going to do that. And then suddenly it's like, I've grown up with this. Well, you just have to make it seem like it's their idea. No, fuck you, it's my idea. I don't want it to be somebody else's idea. I want somebody to support me
Something
in
that
my
women
idea,
are also fighting, by the way.
in order to help the company grow.
Right.
I own it. I am providing this as a method of getting myself further involved with the company, and what you're telling me is you don't want that involvement. Fine, I'm going to go somewhere else.
Right.
Yeah.
I did get the last laugh of my company because 3.5 weeks after they quit, they sent a notification to the rest of the company that they were going to be closing down, selling the company, and 70% of them were going to get laid off. So evidently they didn't really know what they were doing, and I was the one who did have the ideas, and they got rid of the idea guy. Oh well. But I think
Not your problem.
yeah, not my problem anymore.
That shouldn't happen.
I think it's also really interesting because you mentioned, because Jason made the mention of it. This happened to women, and I could definitely not speak to this because I'm not a woman. I'd love to hear Karen's perspective on this. But one phrase that I've heard a lot recently, so everyone has heard the term mansplaining, right? You know, the I am the man, you're the woman. You clearly don't know. Like you have a PhD in clinical psychology. I'm going to explain to you what Pavlov's dog is because you clearly don't know what that is, right? But another phrase I've heard a lot is called heap eating, which is female employee comes up with a great idea, male employee takes it, says it verbatim, and all of a sudden it's the guy's idea, and the female.
Oh my god!
Oh, no.
Yep.
The heap eating. I'm sure that's Jeffrey. You've had that as a different experience, but I think that term is specifically for like the context of sexism involved in it, as opposed to the concept of ageism or other profiling. But I'm curious to hear Karen's perspective on how, you know, the gender stereotyping that's been so common in a lot of this work has been combated in your experience. Like how have you tackled that, especially in your executive role now?
It has happened, not in this, in my current job, obviously, because we still trying to get more women in. We have one wonderful Ukrainian, and she can, you know, we have this policy of 20% of your time you can use for something that you like, that you believe is good for the company. And it tends that, like the ambience mixer I was telling you before, that was built in those 20%. So every employee that wants to have those 20% and use them in a creative way can do that. So that means that if a woman came up with something, and I'm sure that Natalia is going to do that, naturally it's going to be her ownership and her glory. But in my previous experiences, I have seen that play out. And when the women came and complained to me, I first of all, I felt so sorry, but I encouraged them to write down everything. So that was like the only tool I could tell them to do, to have, you know, do a presentation, have everything in written, and make sure to have everyone on the same page that this was her idea, and that when it was and why it was, etc. It's a bit more work, but it covers your ass, as we say. It did work out. It did work out because I've seen that too. And I don't think that, you know, the male colleague was meaning bad. They just believed that it was their idea, just because they have been, you know, talking about it with the female employee or colleague over a certain time. And women, and I'm the same, we seek for confirmation, we seek for approval, we seek for, you know, we want to have other people look at our ideas and kind of go, yeah, you know, continue. And I told all my female employees and colleagues to just, write it down, put it on paper, even if it doesn't look brilliant, but put it on paper, put a date on it. And when time comes and somebody else claims the idea, you have proof. It's sad that we have to do it, but that's how we did. And it helped. In most of the instances, it did help.
It's something that even I've encouraged, not just for myself and some of my own ideas, but for many other colleagues who have ideas, is we got used to this idea. It's like, oh, hey, come to our open door and talk to us about anything. Right. And that has come back to bite us in the ass so many times, where we have this great idea, and much like Karen said, we go in, we talk to this person about this idea that we have, we get poo-pooed on it, and like, oh, well, that's just never going to work. And then suddenly somebody is pitching our idea, or we're implementing our idea, my idea, and it's just like, no, like, why wasn't I involved in this? This was something that I came to. And so it's like, I developed a habit of writing everything down. I have a physically written copy. I have an electronically written copy of what I have. And I use email a lot to show where the idea came from. And if there's a problem where the company, I go to the company and say, look, I came up with this idea. Why wasn't I involved? And the company goes, well, it came from your superior, and, we're just going to go with what they're doing. You don't need to be involved in this. Then I'm going to be like, all right, cool. This company does not value me. I'm out. And that's what Gen Z is doing. They're going, cool, this company does not value me and my input. I don't need to be here. Clearly.
They value the product you create rather than you as a person.
Exactly. And there's just no time left for that. They're like, fuck it. I can be point and click anywhere else. I can literally just stock shelves and not have to think.
And nobody wants to work for evil, by the way. And the more you start realizing your company takes shortcuts instead of bettering themselves, you realize they might be slightly evil, and you don't want to be a part of that.
Karen is eager to jump in.
The good thing is, like, I had this case once, and that particular colleague, she left because she felt like, every idea she had was kind of not taken, but they ended up using it in another way. And I told her, look, if you are the source of the ideas and you go away, you will see that there is, the source is not there anymore. So they will repeat the old ideas. Nothing new is going to come when you leave. Right. And that shall be your revenge. And it was exactly like that. Like, for a year, no new ideas. And then they were like, oh, we got to hire someone new because, right? So she knew that she was the source. It didn't help her job. Yeah. It didn't help. But when I met with her, I said, see, when you are the sun and you are the one giving the light and the warmth, and you're not credited for it, remove yourself and it will be cold and dark.
Right.
Ain't no revenge like success, right?
Living well is the best revenge.
I always say there's accountability. We just don't hang out long enough to see it.
I like
that. Wow. Well, I love I don't even know who said it. Surrounding yourself with people smarter than you. That's been my philosophy here today.
That was Karen.
I love it.
Hire them.
That's what we try and do, is get smarter people than me on here. My goal is just to once in a while bring it back with a statement of obvious for the people like Ted Cruz that legislate below a third grade level. You know what I mean? But I love listening to you all talk about things that really matter like this. I think it's important for corporations to realize that employees need to be taken seriously. We want the responsibility, we want the pride, and if you take that away from us, then we're going to go find it somewhere else for less money in a better place. Who doesn't want to go to work in Zurich and see Zurich? Like, I wouldn't mind I wouldn't mind working for Home Depot in Zurich, but I wouldn't want to do it 80 hours a week so that I could never see Zurich, right? So there's a balance there that I think millennials have that we older people just don't understand. And so, Karen, what I love about you is you honor that phrase, ask a young person how to do it and then get out of their way and let them do it. I really appreciate that about you and Earkick. Earkick is a really great app, and it continues to grow and evolve, and you can use it in your own ways, even though it might not originally have been set up that way. And your input and inspirations will help the app to evolve and become better for everybody. And I think that's an amazing thing that we really need more of. And I love your independence from anything bigger tech. I love the independence of it, that you're not like just building something to be taken over by Facebook. That's cool.
No.
She's like, whoa, gross. Facebook.
Didn't say that, but
no, I did. I did.
I have my ideas.
I did. Oh, Facebook. Ew, gross. All right. Hey Dan, do you have any just the tips before we finish up?
I would say go for a walk when you can. I think it's really it's in the context of maintaining good mental health and all the things we've been talking about. I think one thing that especially when I was working remotely for this company that I just railed against in this podcast, right? I found myself kind of trapped in my basement apartment with minimal light. And there were days where I was like, what the hell's going on? What am I doing? What's my point of anything? And I just went out and went for a walk, even when it was really freezing cold. And going outside and breathing some fresh air and seeing life move around you is very comforting, and coming back and having some kind of stability. And I think if you just go and take the time to deliberately walk away from your desk, from your laptop, from your place of work, whenever you get the chance, going outside, breathing some air and seeing other things happening besides people working is a tremendous boost to your mental health, no matter where you are. So that's my recommendation. Just a tip: go for a walk.
Comes with a bag of goodies. It's really
and that was part of our advice in our first episode. So I love that. Hey Karen, how about you? Do you have just a tip for us?
I just want to second Dan. It's again, I'm going to write about this because it seems so simple, and why don't people do it? But it's your superpower. Go for a walk. Even 5 minutes around the block is going to make a difference. And anyone who does it and doesn't feel any difference, call me.
Yeah. I love that. And Dan, anytime you're feeling that way, you have my phone number. Please call me.
I appreciate it.
I don't want anybody I love feeling that way. And I really love and respect all of you. So thank you for being here. I got Jeffrey's just the tip in the last episode. So is there anything any summation that you want to offer, Jeffrey, before we go?
I think everything that Dan has talked about, what Karen has observed and is looking at, I think realistically, companies that don't look at this information and see that if you don't involve the younger generation, you're not going to be the attractive place to work that you think you are. A lot of us have gone beyond the point of money meaning everything for us. And we're tired of being treated as something we're just told to do. We want to make things better. And especially for the younger generation, they're louder about it than we ever were. And it's great. So the question is how do you take that excitement? How do you take that initiative that every company says that they want and actually put it into practice? Well, I'll tell you right now, EarKick apparently is doing that, especially by working with, someone who's 14 years old. And if you don't do that now, if you don't start to learn from that now, don't be surprised when you're not the number one employer that you claim to be.
Yeah.
Or if you don't exist in 10 years.
Exactly.
Right.
There is enough diversity out there now that somebody is going to be able to get their needs fulfilled in employment, not just financially, but emotionally and mentally. And that's, I think, one of the strengths that I hope all of us take forward.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah,
Well
definitely.
said.
And
Well
now that it's
said.
on the record, we can continue discussing it. So.
Get a timestamp for that email.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm always hearing that in the news. Somebody does something 4 months after we talked about it on the show, and I'm like, we talked about that.
Yeah.
That's our
Trademark
idea.
it.
That's ours. Yeah. I don't care as long as it's getting out there. I would hope every employer listens to this and says, I better learn from what I just heard before I'm forced to. You know what I mean?
Again, you're the source. So as long as you know you're the source, you're the sun,
Mhm.
people will have to come ask you.
Right. I
Great.
love it. All right, I'm gonna.
This was fun. This was a really fun
Yeah.
conversation.
This is a
I
good one.
appreciate. I really love you guys. Y'all are great.
Yeah.
This
Love
was
you
so
all
much
too.
fun.
We can do this anytime about any sub. I love open discussion. Like I said, the note that I had, we didn't even discuss because there was no way I was going to pivot that positivity to negative lying. You know?
Oh, but that's a good one too. Tell you,
Mhm.
that's
Yeah.
a good one too.
Sounds like we need another episode at some point. To
Oh
talk
yeah.
About that.
There you go. Y'all are always welcome. I know, Dan, you're busy for the next month, but we do want to have you on as soon as possible again.
I appreciate it, guys. You take care and enjoy. All right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thanks. Love you.
See y'all.
you
Bye
later.
bye. Thanks
Wonderful
so
meeting you,
much.
Karen.
See you
Bye.
next month.
Take care. Bye bye. Yes.
Cool. Was that all okay? You like that?
Oh,
Was that good?
that was good. That was good.
See, that's why I hate planning an agenda because then I sit there the whole time trying to steer it in one direction or another. I just wanted people to talk, you know?
Right. No.
Cool.
Let's be real honest. That, as much as I wanted to talk about, what the app could look like and how we integrate something like that as a public health measure.
Right.
This was actually a really great conversation. And you know what? That's I think it's not like this is going to go anywhere. There's another day for that conversation, and that'll be a fun
Right.
one.
Yeah, and there's always time to talk. But like I was saying, all I wanted to do is go, fuck you, Kevin McCarthy. You know, like I was just
Right,
so
right.
I was so mad about that because I heard what he said, and then I heard what he said about what he said, and then I heard, it was like
Right.
So I was so politically irritated. And Joe Biden. So do you think we should get rid of Title 42? Well, we're going to appeal the mask thing. What are you talking about, Joe? Like, you don't even know about what I care most about,
Oh! And people wonder why I am absolutely frustrated with both parties in this country.
No, I don't think they do. I just think they wonder how they get out of them themselves,
Yep.
And I wanted to make that statement. I'm happily an independent so that I don't have to take responsibility for Joe Biden or fucking Kevin McCarthy.
And that's one of the things that I love, like being able to just say, yeah, fuck Trump, but also
Yeah.
fuck Joe Biden. It's like,
Right.